Hi, everyone. Good morning. Can you all hear me okay? Okay. Well, how many of you think the world is crazy today? Yeah, okay. We got what? We got COVID, we got the elections, we have wildfires burning, we are all working remotely. Obviously, there is global warming. So I'm here to tell you, I think we as a company, we can't do anything about the elections or COVID, but we can certainly do something about global warming and forest fires. Uh, what I'm here to talk to you about today really has a substantial impact on the planet. Our company has plans to really create the Google Maps for our built environment. But before I get into that, let me just quickly introduce myself. My name is Sridhar Deivasigamani. I'm the founder and CEO of Intellihot. We are a clean tech company based out of Chicago, Illinois. So let's all forget the chaos we live in, right? Wildfires, elections, COVID. If you fundamentally boil what we as human beings need what? Food, clothing, shelter. Right? Only three things. If we had those three things, pretty much 90% of our needs are met. Now let's think about just our shelter. Shelter is where we live, where we work, where we play. It's our schools, hospitals, our stadiums, like our Levi Stadium there. And in our living spaces, we consume a lot of energy. And energy is really used for three basic things. We heat our buildings, we cool our buildings, we heat water, we produce electric power, to power our gadgets and our devices, right? We need this since we want to live comfortably and we want to be shielded from, the elements of nature. However, the second largest emitter, only next to industrial sector, is actually the built environment. The built environment emits almost 26% of all CO2. It's actually even larger than the transportation industry. So it is very clear that without addressing the problems we see in our built environment, we are not going to get to our 2030 or 2050 sustainability goals. It's very clear. Now, what is also happening is about 54% of people live in cities today, and by time it's 2050, over 70% of us will live closer to cities. Cities are full of these buildings, and how energy is consumed in these buildings is actually not well understood. You'd be really surprised. For example, I'm going to specifically talk about water heating. Okay. How many of you took a shower this morning? Okay, several. How many of you stayed at the Hyatt right next door? Okay. I can tell you a building like Hyatt, a building like the Levi Stadium, typically will store hundreds and thousands of gallons of water, and they will keep it hot 24/7. Now, if you think back how these standards were developed, for example, water heating standards, they go back to 1945 when a guy by the name Roy B. Hunter made estimates of how water is consumed in all these large buildings. These were kind of estimates because people didn't have instrumentation, they didn't monitor buildings. These estimates got carried forward, and when engineers would get these estimates, engineers, architects, designers, they would look at that and look at the standard and say, you know what, I want to make sure my building is always warm and comfortable. Let me add in just a little bit more equipment. So typically, equipment got doubled. So you have something that, to begin with, the sizing is incorrect. Then you double the amount of equipment you need. And I'm not kidding, by the way, these things look like, they look like tankers that you see in a gas station. So that much amount of water is kept hot 24/7. And all these pieces of equipment are kept running 24/7. So they do one thing really well, which is consume energy and pollute the atmosphere. All of you guys are here. The water heaters and furnaces and stuff in your home is actually running, keeping water hot, but nobody's consuming it. So to summarize what's happening in our built environment today is we have more equipment than needed. It runs 24/7, and people have no idea when it's going to fail. And when they fail, they replace it with something that looks kind of similar. So as a business, you got to ask yourself, why am I spending all this money if it does not buy me any extra time? It does not help me save the planet. I'm not any better off. So if we have to move towards a sustainable future, it is very clear we got to do two things. We got to know how much energy buildings consume, first and foremost. Then we got to know when is the right time to change my equipment. Because when you approach these businesses, none of them want to change out their equipment and spend a lot of money. However, they do want to change when it's the right time. So can't we simply go out and figure this out? Seems like we should, but we don't do it. We have developed some technology that can actually do this. What we can actually do is 90% of buildings exist today with some kind of system that is running. What if we go to these buildings, literally ship out some boxes, figure out how much energy they are consuming today, figure out what they really need, take some plots of temperatures, pressures, flow rates, all of that, characterize the equipment, and then make predictions on when that piece of equipment is going to break down. So if we did that, then we have digitized that building, and we can digitize literally hundreds and thousands of buildings, tell people what they consume and when their equipment is going to go down. And we can actually do it today. There is no need for us to wait. What you see here is one of the technology that does that. This goes out literally to hundreds and thousands of customers. It's packaged with temperature sensors, flow sensors, carbon monoxide leak sensors. It can monitor all of this. We can bring hundreds and thousands of buildings all online and then be able to really tell them two things. How much am I consuming today? And when is the piece of equipment I have, when is it going to break down? Once they have these two pieces of information, they can upgrade to something that is better and really help us move towards a better sustainable future. So we think of this effort, in fact, it's a core mission for the company. We want to create essentially the Google Maps of the built environment. As we think about, you walk around the city here, you see hundreds and thousands of these buildings. Without digitizing these buildings, we can't really get to 2030 or 2050. So with that, I'll open it up for any questions, comments.